Welcome, everybody. I'm going to call our meeting to order 7:04 this evening. The Board of Education would like to acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory of the Comox First Nation, and we would like to thank them for living on their land and the gift of working with their children. This evening, we have our adoption of agenda, looking for someone to move our agenda this evening. Thank you, SJ. Oh, sorry, Trustee Howe, but I'm seeing our ST is.
Sorry, Chairperson. We had one item we wanted to add to the agenda, the annual capital plan bylaw under my report, item 3.
Under yours, item 3, capital.
So 22-23 capital plan bylaw.
Capital plan bylaw. Capital plan bylaw. Okay, I've got it written down.
Thank you.
Thank you. Looking for someone to move the amended agenda. Thank you, Trustee Howe. And a second. Thank you, Trustee Waite. And all those in favor. And that's carried. And now we are looking at the board meeting minutes from March 15th. Do I have someone to move that? That's Trustee Howe. And I have another. Thank you, Trustee Waite. Okay, and all those in favor. And that's carried. We had no unfinished business. We had our March 15th regular in-camera meeting. And now my board chair report. So first of all, I would like to say thank you to volunteers. It is Volunteer Appreciation Week. We appreciate volunteers in all capacities for as much as they are able to give. We appreciate it. We can't do it without volunteers. And so with that being said, I want to thank every volunteer out there, no matter what you are volunteering for, but especially for our children in the school district, especially over this last couple of years, because I can only imagine how difficult it would be to navigate everything with any restrictions, any masks, any vaccinations required, any handling of food, any salad bars, all these things that involve volunteers. And there have been crazy moments that they've had to go through. So thank you, every volunteer. This is a really busy time for us. At the end of the years, we wrap up committees, meetings, reports, there's staffing, there's hiring, and the list goes on. Superintendent DeMayo, Secretary Treasurer Hooker, Vice Chair Waite, and I all met with the City of Courtenay, Mayor Wells, and the CFO, Jeff Garbett, to start some discussions on topics that may overlap between the city and the school district. And this conversation will continue with the board and the City of Courtenay Council this Friday. So we will see how things progress. Last Wednesday, we had our long-awaited equity scan done in the district. It has been months waiting to be able to do it due to COVID, and we finally got to be together. Joe Heslop, who is a Secondee field liaison from the Ministry of Education Learning Division of Indigenous Education, came and joined us, and he was excellent. The stories that he shared really connects you to what the work is to be done, to how people feel, to so many things. And this is just the start of our conversation in this work. And the work will continue. It must continue. There was a lot in a short timeline, and it was very personal and heartwarming and heartbreaking all at the same time. We finished that meeting and headed straight out to our annual general meeting for trustees in Vancouver. And the opening for us was led by drumming into a longhouse that was created in one of the conference rooms. And the first 215 people were presented with the hand-carved cedar paddle necklaces. I was going to wear mine. Does anyone have theirs? No. Oh, Trustee Waite's going to grab hers. So the first 215 people were presented with these hand-carved cedar paddle necklaces to represent the children who were found. The paddles represent the children wanting to go home. We got to see a ceremony for our elder in residence, Joe Thorne, who had lost a family member the previous day. We listened to songs and drumming with explanations of what the songs meant. Their Trustee Waite has the cedar paddle necklace, and they had 4 orange beads on them. We heard many stories from elders, including those about residential schools and day schools. We had 2 younger plenary speakers who were great speakers and shared their generational and personal traumas and how they got to where they are today. It was an extremely emotionally and mentally draining conference. And then on day 3, we had to switch into the business side of the AGM. And that was the elections and the motions. Trustee Caton was acclaimed as our Bcsta president again for another 1-year term. So congratulations to Trustee Caton. We'll hear some thoughts and reflections from trustees later on in the agenda. And that brings us to elections. The municipal elections will be on October 15th. Bcsta trustee elections are on the same ballot. There will be information sessions and a binder full of information. And we also have a link for a website that's attached to the agenda. And if you are interested in becoming one of the 7 trustees for SD 71 and want more information, then please feel free to contact any of the current trustees or our secretary, treasurer Hooker. So that's what I had to report on. It was, like I said, it was very emotional this past week, very draining. We are exhausted after this April, still lots to go, and we still have a few days of April. So let's make it light in the end. And I know that there were a couple of things that Superintendent DeMayo might want to touch on with those, and I'll give him the opportunity in his district news coming up. We don't have any presentations today. Education committee meeting. Let's turn that over to Trustee Waite.
Well, I'm hoping to work with our Assistant Superintendent Manning. We had a couple of ideas that we were working on for our May 10th meeting, and I'm not quite sure if there's been a decision made yet. So let's hear if we're all going to learn together what the May 10th meeting is going to be about, or if you will learn sometime soon.
Yeah, we have for May 10th, we have it all teed up for physical literacy, and it's going to be at a school. It's going to be somewhat active. So bring your runners, and we'll see what happens. We haven't figured out exactly which school it's going to be at yet, but Gina Taylor is very excited to be presenting to the trustees.
Okay, thank you.
Great, that's hot off the press. We all got to hear it at the same time. It's wonderful. Thank you. There's so many amazing topics that we could learn about.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Well, now we're at strategic direction. We will turn it over to our superintendent and he can fill us in on all the great things happening.
Thank you, Chair Froley. I appreciate that. Before I begin, I just want to remind people that all the information I share and more will be in our board news letter that'll be online, as well as the link in the agenda package that has some of the links to the information. Before I go in with some of the news, I do want to just brief the board. We had an incident yesterday at GP Vanier. And yesterday, a threat was made to the school, towards the school via an anonymous phone call. As safety precaution, the school was put into hold and secure, and then transitioned to a lockdown as the situation evolved. The RCMP arrived on the scene, ensured the safety of students and staff, both inside and outside the building. They then stayed on site while students were dismissed. Early indications lead the police to believe this was an incident of swatting, and that is where a false report is made to prompt an emergency response, which is extremely troubling and against the law. Counselors were available today and will continue to be available for students and staff. We'd like to thank the RCMP, the school administration, the staff, and the students for their work and how they handled this situation. It's very unfortunate that we have to deal with situations like this with the amount of disruption and trauma that an event like this causes. But we are very grateful of the leadership that was shown yesterday at GP Vanier, and thank everyone for their contribution and their involvement in making sure everyone was safe. So I just wanted to bring trustees up to speed. And I know at times it's frustrating with information to get out to everyone. It's hard competing with social media sometimes, but please know that our first priority is always the safety of students, and we will spend the time to make sure our students are safe, and we will get information out to people as quickly as we can possibly do that. So thank you very much. And I just wanted to bring trustees up to speed on that. Wow, lots of things have happened. Free books over spring break. Kindergarten and grade 1 students in SD 71 were sent home with 3 brand new books to read over the holidays. It was part of a Books for Brains, bookstore owner Melissa Agnew. It was prompted or spearheaded the initiative. And the program, kids got to go pick up 3 titles they wanted. Agnew had contacted publishers and was able to get deals at books at cost and other gifts like stickers, bookmarks. This year, 1,252 students received books. That is absolutely amazing. Books were distributed to each school during the 2 weeks before March break, and students received 1 tote bag, 1 early reader, 1 picture book, and 1 chapter book. Well over 3,300 books were handed out. So thank you very much, and congratulations. And all of this, all of it was covered by donations. So we really appreciate it. I know the students do as well. The district bike program is in full swing, giving all grade 4 and 5 students a chance to learn how to ride. Elementary students throughout SD 71 are learning how to ride bikes. This is organized by the Environmental and Outdoor Learning Department, and the program is run in partnership with Comox Valley Cycling Coalition. SD 71's bike trailer has helmets, bikes, lights, and lots of other gears to support the lessons. So getting our students out on bikes is a great thing to do. And as the weather turns, I'm sure we will see more and more students taking advantage of the bike lanes, which is a wonderful thing. So speaking of bikes, our own trustee McDonald attended the unveiling of the new bike racks at GP Vanier. And it was the first phase. It's an expensive venture, $20,000, but staff, students, and our operations department were actively involved in that. They had opening ceremonies, they had a band playing, they had treats for everyone. A wonderful initiative, and congratulations to Vanier, the PAC, and staff, students, and administration of the school. Some Earth Day news. Glacier View student organized a Lake Trail clothing shop on Earth Day. The Lake Trail held a pop-up free clothing store. A past Lake Trail student worked alongside Tina Willard Stepan from Strathcona Waste Management and current Lake Trail leadership classes to bring the free clothing store concept to life. Jay, a grade 11 student at Glacier View, shared why this project holds of importance to him. And he had stated he grew up quite poor and struggled to find adequate clothing as a kid. It's absurd to me how much clothing we waste when homelessness is steadily on the rise in BC. I think the clothing swap is a wonderful opportunity for people in our community to contribute to a cause that would be mutually beneficial for our planet and everyone involved. So congratulations, it was a huge success. Some great photos on there that occurred. Isfeld also has held an eco fair, and it's back in person after a 2-year leave. And their environmental club hosted it, where students were sharing, invited to learn about different environmental organizations that work in both the Comox Valley and BC. So thank you very much to the staff and students of both of those schools for getting that on. 2 students in our district participated this year in the DHH Showcase by the Provincial Outreach Program for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing. Nearly 80 students from across the province entered this competition. This year's event was entirely online. Our students, Quinn Hoare from Mark Isfeld and Finley Adamson from Cumberland Community School, participated in the DHH Showcase. They each prepared a speech to present on the topic, what makes me proud to be deaf or hard of hearing? And the link, I'm encouraging people to visit the link where you can actually see the presentations. This was Finley's first year competing and Quinn's second. Happy to announce this year's winner of the spotlight presentation was Quinn. Thank you to both, and we're very proud of the hard work that went into this. Isfeld also held a student voice program, and this is a program that's initiated by the BC Principals and Vice Principals Association. Student leaders from Highland, Vanier, Glacier View, and Isfeld met for this virtual session with speaker Greg Franston, a Canadian poet, educator, and EDI consultant, and Joe Hislop, who we all met last week from the Ministry of Education around the Education Equity and Action Project, and a performance by award-winning composer Jason Bernstick. A number of activities, so it was really great to see students in and involved in this. The other thing I want to comment on is, as Chair Frawley mentioned, we started the Equity in Action project last Wednesday. It was our kickoff. It was a chance to understand a little bit about what is entailed for us. Now our next step as a district, we will take over the next month and a half time to create our team that will begin the process as we analyze our practices within our district and our structures. And we will be working alongside our IEC, alongside each other for this journey. It's a lengthy journey, and we're very, very excited to begin and taking steps together in that. At this point in time, I am going to ask our director, Dr. Collier, to comment on an update around our garden project.
Thank you. I'm excited to update the board on recent developments in our district's garden-based learning initiative. Our garden-based learning initiative is designed to enhance our students' ecological literacy and food systems knowledge, learning in various areas of our curriculum. For example, the science curriculum has an emphasis on sense of place, and our core competencies have a focus on environmental care. We're excited to be collaborating and continuing to collaborate with families, volunteers, and our community partners, and also integrating traditional ecological knowledge and land-based knowledge. And if you recall, trustees, we had Joe Crona come and speak, be our keynote at our last professional development day, and she shared with us many resources that will be really useful in this around land-based learning and traditional ecological knowledge. So just before the break, the spring break, we asked schools who would be interested in being lead schools in this initiative. And after the break, we were able to identify 6 school communities who are going to be our lead schools in the project. They are Arden, Brooklyn, Denman, Huben Park, Nides, and Quinish. The reason we picked those schools was that they showed such readiness with staff, and there's many teachers at those schools who are committed to bringing their classes outdoors for learning in the garden on an ongoing basis. So they're going to be our lead schools to get started on the initiative. So in the next school year, we're going to be working with them, collaborating on exploring the following questions. What garden-based learning approaches, structures, and practices foster environmental stewardship and connection to place? And how can schools develop and sustain garden spaces as ongoing learning environments? And as we're trying the new ideas and strategies with students in our gardens at schools, we'll be taking that information, what we learn, and those lessons learned will help to inform a district-wide garden-based learning framework that other teachers and schools can use moving forward as they also move forward with their garden-based learning initiatives. In the meantime, we've already started in our learning around this. We have a professional learning series with Megan Zenny, who is a teacher, master gardener, outdoor play specialist, and expert school garden educator. She is a PhD candidate at UBC, and she is leading a series called School Garden Series with us. And what that entails is it started right after the break on April 5th, and we have afternoon sessions, 6 of them, going right into the fall next year. And these are all about tips for teachers on how you set up your garden to be a learning environment. How do you bring classes into the environment and get them working in the garden, as well as how do you make it a learning environment and connect it to the curriculum. So for example, on April 5th, their first session was all about how do you use the garden as a shared space with so many kids in it? How do you map a garden so that it's easy to use as a learning space? What seeds should you start with in the spring? And what other timely tasks can you do? And so each session will have a different focus that will help teachers with tips around gardening, but also how you use it as a learning space. So that's going into the fall. And we're excited to let you know that we have 20 teachers engaged in that series across 16 schools. It includes our lead schools, and it also includes other teachers who are interested from the other schools so that we can support them as they're moving towards readiness. You should also know that those series, the afternoon is set up so that that Megan Zenny zooms in to give her advice to the teachers, and we record that, and it's in our portal so we can share it with other teachers later. So all of the schools have teachers who are going and sharing it with colleagues as well. And then our lead teacher, Serena Allison, is at those sessions as well, and they are hosted at a school garden. And so what they do is they go outside afterwards and try some of the things that Megan suggested, and then have some time for planning. They also take away material so that they can get started with their kids right away. So for example, on that first day, all the teachers there got enough soil, bags of soil for the boxes that they have at their school, and some seeds so they could get ready with spring planting. So those are the highlights at this point, and I look forward to sharing more with you as we move along. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Collier. And at that point, I will turn it back over to the chair.
I didn't realize I was muted. Sorry. I just wanted to ask Director Collier, the 6 schools were Arden, Brooklyn, Huban, Nides, and who are the other 2? Was it Denman?
Quinish.
Niche?
And did you say Denman?
I wasn't sure if Denman was one of them.
Denman is, yeah.
Denman is, okay.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. Perfect, thanks. That was great to hear. And do trustees have any questions for the superintendent or our director? No. All right, we will
Thank you.
continue on. It looks like our assistant superintendent doesn't get to say anything this evening. I'm so sorry. Okay, we will move on to secretary treasurer, 3 big items. First one up, our budget update and public consultation process.
Thank you, Chairperson. So the district is currently in the planning cycle for the 22-23 annual budget, so our preliminary budget for next fall. And there's a package of information in your board book, which I thought I would share my screen and go through the report and some of the other information that's presented for trustees. This is just the preliminary first draft of the information, so I won't go into a lot of detail. There'll be another opportunity for the board to engage in the development of the budget. So as you know, our budget cycle starts in February when we submit our enrollment projections for next year. And from that, then the ministry builds their funding allocations, which they released on March 15th. And from there, we start planning the revenue that we're projecting and the expenses associated with the additional students that we're expecting. And then we initiate a budget consultation committee, which includes partner groups and stakeholders and trustees. And we gather input for the draft budget. And currently this year, we're trying a new process where we've worked with our director of communications to create a portal on our website to gather information from the public around our current status of our budget. And we were very excited to have a question come in already. And so, you know, it seems there's some information on the website and an opportunity to send in questions. So hopefully that'll be a successful process. But one thing I wanted to lead with before I go into the detail on the reports is we are projecting to have a balanced budget, which is very good news. We learned last week that from speaking with our colleagues around the province that we're one of 7 districts who is currently projecting a balanced budget. There's 53 districts in the province that are looking at deficit budgets and having to make reductions for various reasons. So we're in a good situation. We don't have a lot of extra money, but we're able to cover our current costs and maintain our current level of service and programs that we're delivering to students. So I'll just share my screen and go through the report quickly. So can you see my screen? Oh, sorry, I have to click the share button. So now you can see my preliminary
Yes.
report?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So this is just the preliminary report based on our early indications of what we're looking at. So we developed this strategy, making sure we're connected in with the strategic plan and school plans and the framework for enhancing student learning. We're fortunate this year to be predicting enrollment growth. And I found this slide to be very interesting. You know, we can see that the district went through those difficult years up to 2015 of declining enrollment. And then since 2015, so in the last 6 years and into the fall, we're seeing a sharp increase back again of enrollment growth, which is really helping the situation of being able to present a balanced budget. So from the enrollment projections, we then look at what we're projecting for revenue. And as trustees are aware, 95% of our income comes from the Ministry of Education through the funding allocation system. And so based on the information around our estimated enrollment for the fall, which is 9,787 students, we're looking at approximately 3.6 million in increased revenue from the ministry. From that, we also look at different other inputs and outputs of revenue, and overall we're projecting a revenue increase of 3.4 million. So from that, then of course, with additional students, we look at the cost pressures around different things. So we are, of course, with additional students, we'll need additional staffing levels. So that's approximately $1 million that we'll be looking at. As well, that we have had an indication from the ministry that when collective agreements are negotiated, they will provide funding at that time. And so there's been no announcements around that yet. But we also know that as of yet, they have not funded exempt staff increases. So we've put some money in as a cost pressure around anticipated pressures when the settlements are finalized for our exempt staff and principals and vice principals. Along with that, we have a couple of additional staffing positions. We recognize that due to COVID-19, the pressure around HVAC and the air quality in schools is an ongoing challenge. So we want to continue with the additional HVAC position and some other staffing out of the local education agreement that is under negotiation. A big cost pressure, as you know, is the revisions to the Employment Standards Act and the addition of 5 sick days for TTOC and casual employees. So we estimate that pressure to be around $400,000. We've allocated some funding towards framework for enhancing student learning, our pension plan premiums, benefits, utility costs, and school budgets, and an increase in students translates to an increase in our IT costs as well. Additionally, we had some projects that were deferred this year due to cost escalations with COVID-19. So we want to put aside an additional $875,000 for identified projects, the project of the board office, as well as the Arden sprinkler system and entrance, etc., that we weren't able to move forward due to the estimates coming in higher than the funding that we had currently available. So overall, the cost pressures are estimated to be 3.4 million, leaving approximately 50,000 for allocation. So next steps are to continue with the public consultation process we have currently underway. And then our next budget advisory committee is on May the 10th. And then from that, we will prepare a draft budget for the board to consider. We have currently a committee of the whole set aside with the board for May 19th. And then we hope to bring the draft budget to the board meeting for the May 25th board meeting. I'm sorry, I'm not exactly sure of the day of the next board meeting. I apologize. So that's a quick overview of the report. And then this is the estimated operating grant from the ministry that we received based on the 9,787 students we're projecting. So overall, our funding estimate from the ministry is just over 100 million, so 101,331,334. And then from that, we look at, this is where we project our sorry, our projected enrollment increase. So as you can see, that amount reconciles to the ministry funding announcement and to the information I presented you on the report. And then this is just a summary document in your package of the cost pressures that I talked about, the overall funding increase and the cost pressures and the capital projects we're hoping to fund through a transfer to local capital, and the overall amount that's available for consideration. So that is a quick overview of the budget. And if there's any questions, or if Director of Finance Hilton wanted to add some information, that would be great. And I will stop sharing my screen.
Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I think the only thing I would add is that as we share these reports over the coming weeks, you will notice that the numbers change as we learn of more information and work through our estimates of our cost pressures and perhaps receive more information about potential funding. So we do have an upcoming meeting with both the Budget Committee and the Finance Committee in a week or two's time, and some of the amounts may be adjusted slightly.
Yes, thank you. And so our public consultation is open on the website. We would love to have more feedback on the information that's currently contained in the board package, and we look forward to presenting the board balanced budget.
Thank you. Do trustees have any questions? No? Okay, great. Thank you. We can move on to school board office update.
Thank you, Chair. So this is just verbal update. We did close on our offer to purchase of the property at 2488 Gideon's Way. So we now own the property, and we're beginning the planning process around the potential renovation of the office and a potential addition. So we're excited to be moving ahead with that project. That it's really going to assist the district with our enrollment pressure and bring up classroom space for from Airport Elementary, and also providing some expanded office space for our Indigenous Ed program as well. So you know, we're just in the early stages of the project. We'll present some more information for the board, potentially some designs and costing of the renovations for the May board meeting. And Dr. Hasselgrave, did you want to add to that?
Nothing to add. That's good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, does anyone have any questions? No? Okay. We will move on to our added item, the capital plan bylaw for 2022-2023.
Yes. So I will share my screen again, and I will share it. So this is late addition to the agenda, and I apologize that it didn't get in with the agenda package. So annually, the Ministry of Education provides us with a capital plan approval letter, and we received that just after the last board meeting. So, but apparently there was a lot of time between March 15th and this board meeting, and we missed getting it in the agenda package. So along with the funding announcement from the ministry around their capital projects, we require the board to pass a bylaw in order to generate the certificate of approval for the facilities department to draw on the funds. So this is the funding letter that was received from the Ministry of Education. We did not receive approval to go ahead with a major capital project, but we were excited to receive funding for 3 HVAC and roofing upgrades. So we have some funding for phase 1 of the Glacier View Elementary HVAC upgrade. And we're being funded for, so that funding was $550,000. The Marcusville roof upgrade was, we were receiving $800,000 for that. And then the Solom Elementary or 9s, is approved for an HVAC upgrade of 496,320,000. So we're requesting that the board pass a bylaw in conjunction with this funding letter that then we can register with Capital Branch and proceed to start drawing on the funds and moving those projects forward for the work to be done by March 31st, 2023. So this is the funding letter. It is required to be signed by staff and the board in order to be submitted to the ministry. And I'll just pull up the bylaw document. So this is the capital plan bylaw. I sent it out to trustees earlier in the evening. And so we would need 3 readings of the bylaw, as well as permission, unanimous agreement by the board under 68(4) of the School Act to do all 3 readings in one evening. And so the same process that is outlined under the trustee election bylaw policy 7 appendix, that's further on in the agenda. So I would put it back to the chair to see if trustees would consider adopting the bylaw.
Okay, so if you're able to stop sharing your screen for
Okay, so did you need the bylaw? Nope. Okay, I'll stop sharing. Everyone should have a copy of the bylaw in their email. I just wanted
okay, so trustees, does anyone have any questions for our secretary treasurer in regards to this? Okay, seeing none, are trustees ready to move forward with this? Do I have a trustee who would like to do the first reading of the bylaw? Okay, thank you, Trustee McDonald.
Mute again. Actually, I just have a question. So
Sure.
we don't have to read the whole bylaw. Surely, is there not a move that bylaw, blah, 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 be appointed? Where is that language somewhere? I don't see it at the, is it there for the board enacts the capital bylaw as approved by the minister? Like, what is the language you want us to use in this? Because it wasn't in the original agenda, right?
Yes, and I apologize for that. So I would just request that, sorry, I can move further down on the, so it's that the capital bylaw of the board for the 22-23 capital plan as approved by the minister to include the supported capital projects specified in the letter that I shared with the board is adopted. And the bylaw number is 23-CPSD-71-01. And so it would just be that the board adopt the bylaw, capital bylaw number 23 CPSD-SD 7101, that it be given first reading, second reading, that all 3 readings under 68(4) be approved, and then final.
Okay, so normally I would say move that CPSD be read the first time. Is that what I move first time? Okay.
Yes.
All right. So I will move that the capital bylaw number 23 CPSD 7101 for the 2022-23 capital plan as presented receive first reading on the 26th day of April 2022.
Thank you, Trustee McDonald. Do I have a second? Thank you, Trustee May. And any further discussion? All those in favor? And that's carried. Okay. Do I have a mover for the second reading?
I can give it a shot.
Thank you, Trustee Howe.
I move that the capital bylaw number 23 CPSD 7101 of the year 2021-22 gets read a second time on the 26th day of April, 2022. Did I miss something?
2022, 2023.
2022, 2023.
Yes.
Okay,
Well
sorry,
done.
my bad.
I'll second.
Thank
Sorry.
you, Trustee McDonald. And any further discussion? Okay, and all those in favor? And that's carried.
So I would move that the Board of Education of School District 71 waive the unanimously consent to the third reading at this time.
Okay, thank you, Trustee McDonald. Do I have a second? Thank you, Trustee Waite. And all those in favor? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. And so then a mover for the third and final.
I'll move that the capital bylaw number 23 CPSD 71-01 for the 2022-23 capital plan be read for the third time on the 26th day of April 2022.
Are we good with that, Secretary Treasurer Hooker? Okay. And thank you, Trustee Howe. Okay, and all those in favor? And that is carried.
Thank you, trustees, for passing the bylaw. It's much appreciated that you were able to do that without having it actually in the agenda and laid out for you. So sincerely appreciated that we can start creating the certificate of approval and drawing the funds for the project. So thank you.
You're really
yeah.
stretching our brain there.
I know.
Sheila and I don't mind mucking around too much.
But I thought trustees did a fabulous job.
Fabulous job. Yeah.
And is that everything for
Yes.
you? Okay,
Yeah, that's the end of my report. Thank you.
you're welcome. Thank you. And human resources, retirements and recognitions. Do we have anybody that you are recognizing tonight, Trustee Waite?
Maybe just 1 1/2 pages full of retirees tonight, just maybe. Hang on to your chairs. Here we go. Barbara DeGoody, teacher, Puntledge Park Elementary, retiring effective June 30th after 29 years of service. Heather Corman, teacher, Navigate Nides, retiring effective June 30th after 24 years of service. Kevin Corman, teacher, Navigate Nides, retiring effective June 30th after 24 years of service. Sheila Fairbank, teacher, Miracle Beach Elementary, retiring effective June 30th after 31 years of service. Michelle Genge, teacher, Highland Secondary, retiring effective June 30th after 25 years of service. Gary Ball, teacher, Cumberland Community School, retiring effective June 30th after 22 years of service. Jeff Taylor, principal, Navigate Nides, retiring June 29th after 16 years of service. Andrew Nickel, education assistant, inclusive education, retiring effective June 29 after 17 years of service. Marianne L., education assistant, inclusive education, retiring effective June 29 after 19 years of service. Shelley Waterfield, education assistant, inclusive education, retiring effective June 30th after 27 years of service. Lori Ball, education assistant, inclusive education, retiring effective August the 30th after 10 years of service. Sherry Lang, Education Assistant, Inclusive Education, retiring effective June 30th after 33 years of service. Elizabeth Hugenschmidt, Education Assistant, Inclusive Education, retiring effective June 29 after 26 years of service. Colleen Friendship, Program Worker Strong Start, Queenish Elementary, retiring effective June 30th after 14 years of service. Sherry Fudikuff, Library Clerk, Brookland Elementary, retiring effective June 30th after 10 years of service. Anne Buchanan, Teacher, Queenish Elementary, retiring effective June 30th after 21 years of service. Wendy Watson, Teacher, Airport Elementary, retiring effective June 30th after 31 years of service. Julia McCoy, Teacher, Inclusive Education, retiring effective June 30th after 23 years of service. And Jeanette Goldie, Education Assistant, retiring effective June 30th after 27 years of service. That is 19 of our staff.
This is going to be a big number.
Have you been adding this up in your head? Now, I don't know if this is going to go reverse or if it's going to show the right way. Can you see it? No, it's back.
429.
429 years of service. I want to thank each and every one of the retirees for their work and dedication to our students and our school community. 429.
They gave you a real run this time, Trustee Waite. That was a long list.
I know. I'm wondering what it's going to look like in the May board meeting, and I'm wondering if the superintendent or the assistant superintendent can tell me if this is normally the biggest month we receive these, or if I need to do a PowerPoint presentation for the next one.
I think this tends to be one of the bigger ones.
Okay, it's amazing. Yeah. And, you know, employees people committed to service in public education for that many years. It just shows that they really loved what they did. And we're thankful for that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, and one of my very dear friends was on that list, so I wish her all the best. Okay. We are moving on to our board standing committee reports. Finance Committee board report. Our trustee, Trustee Caton, who is the chair of that committee, is visiting one of her favorite people right now. Dare I say Mickey Mouse? So I hope she's having fun and it's nice and toasty warm where she is. And so I would like to move that the Board of Education for School District number 71 Comox Valley receive the Finance Committee Board report as it was presented in our package. Thank you, Trustee Howe. And any questions in regards to the report? None? Okay, all those in favor of receiving the report? And that's carried. Thank you. We can move on to policy. Is that going to be Trustee Hawksby or Trustee Waite?
I'm hoping it's Trustee Hawksby.
I don't think.
Am I unmuted now?
Oh, there you are.
Sorry. Do I just jump in with the recommendations, or do I talk about the report? Wasn't,
Well, you need to do the readings for the bylaw.
is that where I just jump in with that?
Yeah, so
Okay.
you can go ahead and do the first reading.
Recommendation is that policy 7 appendix trustee bylaw number 1C be given its first reading.
Okay, do I have a second? Thank you, Trustee May. Sorry, I'm trying to write notes. It's who's doing what here as I'm trying to go, so flipping pages at the same time. Okay, all those, sorry, any discussion? Yes, Trustee McDonald.
Well, just for a little question, explanation to us, some background. I know that some of this came out of the last elections that were held and certain changes that were identified as being needed. And I just wondered if perhaps Secretary Treasurer or someone could highlight specific, what were the most significant things changed? Anything that we should be aware of, because we certainly had elections without realizing that we might not have been doing something right.
Certainly, Chairperson.
Yeah, go ahead.
So after the trustee by-election that was held last year, we had hired a chief election officer, Clyde Woolman, who presided over the election for the Board of Education. And he made some recommendations regarding the trustee elections bylaw number 1C, just to create alignment with the Elections Act and the current legislation around municipal elections. And so we reviewed Mr. Woolman's suggestions and felt that they were appropriate changes to the bylaw to make sure we had alignment between the Elections Act and the Local Government Act and our bylaw and practices. So we presented the changes of the bylaw to the policy committee, and they were reviewed at the policy and agreed that the changes were supported by the committee, and then therefore we're bringing forward the recommendations to the board for consideration.
Does that clarify things there, Trustee McDonald? Are you good with? Yeah, okay. Okay, I keep seeing Director Lamoureux adjust. I keep thinking he's putting his hand up. I was excited that one of the directors wanted to speak to us. Okay, Trustee Howe.
Can I move that policy 7 appendix trustee bylaw number 1C be given a second reading?
Well, we just need to, yes, you can. We just need to, all in favor of the first one.
sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. That's okay. Okay, so then all those in favor of the first reading. And that is carried. And Trustee Howe.
Sure, I move that the policy 7 appendix trustee bylaw number 1C be given.
Thank you. And a second. Okay, thank you. Trustee Hawksby. And any further discussion? And all those in favor. And that is carried. And Trustee Waite.
I would like to do the next part, that in accordance with section 6(8)(4) of the School Act, all 3 readings of the policy 7 appendix trustee bylaw number 1C be given at tonight's meeting.
Okay, so, and Trustee Howe is going to second that. And all those in favor, it must be unanimous. And that is carried. Thank you. And third and final reading. Who would like to?
Go ahead, my mic. I move that policy 7 appendix trustee bylaw number 1C be given third and final reading.
Okay, thank you. And do I have a second? Trustee Hawksby. And all those in favor. And that is carried. Thank you. Okay, the next one, Trustee Hawksby, is your policy 25 childcare.
The recommendation is that the Board of Education for School District Number 71, Comox Valley, adopt policy 25 childcare as presented.
Okay, and Trustee Waite. You're seconding it. Okay, perfect. And any questions? Yes, Trustee McDonald.
Yeah, so it's an important policy, and clearly some work went into it, but it's interesting when you're not on the policy committee and things kind of appear. I'm wondering what the process in forming this policy. I see that it was based on some templates, but I wondered whether there was consultation with our existing childcare partners around the wording. Did we present it to them? Was there any feedback? Just interested in what that process looked like. And I would say in the language, the policy part seems very, it's very, there's some references to the acts and the law and stuff, but the language that's actually in the beginning, the preamble of the administration process, I think really expresses in an empowering way what we're looking for. So I thought that was an interesting thing, but I would appreciate a little bit of background on the policy development process and consultation.
Sure, I can, Chair Frawley, I can speak to that.
Absolutely.
And thank you, great question. The policy, of course, comes under the requirement from the ministry that we were required to create a policy around childcare. And you are correct, the template was used. The consultation process that occurred really occurred around the AP side of things more. Our Director Collier, and prior to Director Collier, Director Douglas worked on this, and parts of initially both the policy, the first draft, and after that was created, we ended up peeling off some of the documents that were in the policy because they were more of an admin procedure and putting it into the admin procedure. So there was consultation with the groups, for the last couple of years as this has been developed. And you are correct that we did use templates. We also used other school districts to see what their language was around the childcare policy specifically. So that was the development. It was a long time coming. It was one of Director Douglas's last things he completed in June. And then when Director Collier picked it up this fall, we continued with it and wrapped it up. So, okay.
Thank you. Any other questions? Don't see any hands. Okay, so all those in favor of moving that recommendation? Okay, that's carried. Thank you. And the final one, Trustee Hawksby.
That the Board of Education for School District Number 71, Comox Valley, received the Administrative Procedure 553 childcare centers and before and after school programs as information only.
Okay. Do I have a second for that? Thank you, Trustee Howe. And any further discussion, questions? No. Oh, go ahead, Secretary Treasurer Hooker.
Sorry, Chairperson, while we're on the topic of childcare, I just wanted to mention that we did receive a public announcement last week regarding the Glacier View and Arden childcare centers. And the public announcement was a little premature. We're still in negotiations and finalizing our discussions with MCFD. So the public is already aware of the potential new facilities, and they're already contacting staff and the district regarding childcare spaces. I just wanted to comment that it's going to be a while before we get to that stage, and there'll be further announcements regarding those two centers. But we're not generating any lists, and it'll be probably a year or more before we would see any potential spaces available.
Okay, great. Thank you for clarifying that. So this is an AP. Are we good to a vote? Okay. All those in favor then? And that is carried. Okay, and then the final piece for you, Trustee Hawksby.
Recommendation that the Board of Education for School District Number 71 Comox Valley receive the Policy Committee Board report as presented.
Thank you, and thank you, Trustee May. And all those in favor? And that is carried. Okay. We're zooming right along here. Okay, Facilities Committee. That I will turn over to Trustee Howe.
Yeah, hi, that was me. We met on April 19th, and yeah, it was a pretty fulsome meeting. We went over the significant planned projects that were, and we had a request from Trustee Wait for like a little bit of a breakdown of some of the projects, which I saw in the package. So I went over that. That was appreciated. And I think, Ian, I can probably pass it to you to just go over the AFG spending plan in a little bit
Sure,
more.
I don't want to go over it in detail since it's in the package, but I think this is, it's a key part of our annual maintenance program. It's targeted funding that is there to preserve and maintain the facilities. And it's sort of mid-sized projects that are not part of the minor or major capital plan. And so there's a very disciplined process that goes into this. We have a database of all of the different building systems and work that needs to be done. And we attempt to hit some of the major pieces in succession so that we don't fall too far behind. A lot of the money, probably 25%, goes to roofing, and then we divide up amongst mechanical, electrical, carpentry, and site works. So the list of projects is there. It's long. It represents a significant amount of work by both school district maintenance staff and some contractors. And I think we have a good plan going into the spring, summer, and fall. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thanks, Ian.
Does anyone have any questions?
Great. I can go ahead and move that the Board of Education for School District 71 Comox Valley approve the 2022-23 annual facilities grant spending plan.
Okay, and Trustee Hawksby, perfect, thank you. And any further discussion? I see none. All those in favor? And that is carried.
Thank you.
And I'll go ahead and move that the Board of Education for School District 71 Comox Valley receive the Facilities Committee Board report as presented.
Thank you. And Trustee May, second. And all those in favor? And that is carried. So I was going to ask for further discussion and then realized I didn't need further discussion to accept the report. Okay, board business. Elizabeth Bunny Shannon Memorial Aware. I think it's supposed to be award. Briefing note. Did you want to speak to that at all, Secretary Treasurer Hooker?
Sure. So trustees prepared or presented a notice of motion at the last board meeting regarding creating a memorial award for Elizabeth Bunny Shannon. Elizabeth was a longstanding trustee for the district and a very active community member. And so we wanted to create a bursary for students in recognition of Bunny. And so the briefing note attached to your board package is prepared for your consideration.
Thank you. And so Trustee McDonald.
I'd just like to move that we approve the recommendation.
Thank you. And do I have a second? Thank you, Trustee Howe. And any discussion on this? Nope. We are good to go ahead with that. And all those in favor? Thank you, everybody. I just wanted to mention that Bunny Shannon was actually mentioned at our AGM in the memoriams. And there were, I want to say about 8 people this past year that we lost. And I noticed that almost all of them were in June of 2021. I thought that was quite interesting.
Chair, could I just note that the social planning committee or council of the Valley is which Bunny chaired for many, many years, was a very important leader on that question of social planning and the quality of life reports that were done and things like that. The AGM is coming up on the 3rd of May. It's by Zoom at 11:30, and so if people are interested in attending that, there, I have no doubt, will be some tribute to Elizabeth Shannon and recognition that of all the work that she contributed through that area. You know, some of about Lush Valley as well, one of her other significant ones, but the social planning AGM should be quite interesting, and everyone is welcome to attend, of course. We can get in touch with me. I can organize Zoom invitations if you haven't had one.
Great. Thank you so much for that, Trustee McDonald. And we're going to turn it right back over to Trustee McDonald for notice of motion.
Yeah, so this sort of speaks for itself. The frequency of interesting challenges in school zones and playgrounds and the risk to our students is quite considerable. And I had heard about this initiative of combining both. Playgrounds are, all of our schools have playgrounds, but they're used extensively by members of the public year round. And so what my research showed, Calgary undertook this at least 5 years ago, and Vancouver more recently, that it is very effective to consolidate. Now, we have some challenges with 5 different jurisdictions that have to join with us, but I thought that it would be a good thing to bring forward. So this would come up at the next meeting. And if anyone looking for information, I'd be happy to provide it in the meantime.
Great, thank you. Trustee Waite.
So I just want to make sure I get this right, but if we move a motion and it's unanimous to pass this motion tonight, do I move a motion? Is what I say is that we would like to move to put this forward in our agenda package for tonight. And then if that motion is unanimous, then the motion comes forward.
So actually, in our rules of order, I did check on all of this today, just in case, and it
Okay.
is by a simple majority vote. However, we do have our meeting this Friday with the city of Courtenay, and we thought maybe it was best to have that meeting and then bring the motion through at our May meeting.
Okay.
And
And but Courtney's only one of them, so that's sort of interesting, isn't it?
yeah, so I mean, I am, whatever anyone wants to do, I am willing to work with you. It was just a suggestion that maybe we wanted to have that meeting and then bring it to our May meeting, because I mean, we aren't losing time on doing this, other than obviously getting a letter out 3 weeks earlier. But what would it's up to it's at the will of the board. So I turn it over to you, Trustee Howe.
Well, yeah, I just want to thank you for bringing this forward, Trustee McDonald. It is something that I think about all the time, and I know there's a lot of community members up here in Cumberland that have been discussing this issue at great length. And I actually just had some PAC members from Arden School reach out to me today, inviting me to their active travel walkabout to see their areas of safety around their property. So I think it's timely, and it's about time. And so as far as when this happens, I don't really have a thought on that. So I'm kind of unhelpful but I, as far as support is concerned, I'm behind you. And yeah, in whatever way that we can, make things safer for our students.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I'll just jump in for a second, Trustee Waite, and then I'll go to you. I agree with Trustee Howe. It is time that this is it becomes something that does happen. I personally, when my kids were in elementary school, we had the playground for a little while because they had to take the fence down at the school to do some work. So they automatically had to put up a playground zone, which we thought, yay, they've made it a playground zone. Turned out it was only because the fence was down, and then the fence went back up and it got changed back over to a school zone. We were very sad. So yes, it is all about our children's safety, and so I just wanted to give that little bit of information that yes, it would be nice. Trustee Waite.
I support us working with our municipal partners and our regional district, the Ministry of Transport partners, and it's important. I think we all know that our district is in many, we're in a city, a town, a village, and the regional district, and that our work can lead the way in many things that we do. And I would like to move that, I would like to move a motion to bring this motion forward at this meeting for discussion and to vote on it.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Waite. Do I have a second? Yeah, Trustee Howe. Sorry, I'm trying to write and look at the same time. Okay, and so then you've moved it, Trustee Waite. So did you want to speak to it, or did you want to turn it over to, oh, sorry, Secretary Treasurer Hooker?
So just to clarify process, so did Trustee Waite move to waive the notice of motion and to consider the motion at this time. So do we need two motions? One to waive the notice of motion and then another one to bring the motion to the floor?
Oh, okay. Yes, I see what you're saying. Yeah, okay, so trustee Wade is moving that we're bringing this notice of motion as a motion now to the table.
So we're
I'm moving to
waiving-
waive the notice of motion. Thank you
waive
for
the
the
notice.
words.
Thank you. Waive the notice of motion.
Yeah.
And I have trustee Howe's the second. Okay, let's vote on that and then see about the motion. Okay, all those in favor of waiving? Okay, so that is carried unanimously. Although it just had to be majority, because I made sure I knew what the bylaw was on that for this evening. Okay, so that's carried. Now we are going to move to trustee McDonald.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. I appreciate that support. And I've no doubt that we will talk about it with the city of Courtenay. But I would at this time move that the Board of Education request the superintendent or his designate to initiate discussions with the CVRD Town of Comox, City of Courtenay, Village of Cumberland, and the Minister of Highways to designate all school sites as playgrounds and to amend the limited speed zones for schools with a more comprehensive playground speed zone.
Okay, thank you. And trustee Waite is going to second that. And any further discussion? Questions, concerns, comments? Trustee Waite.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's interesting that this isn't something that's already in effect. When you think about it's about safety and it's about routine. So if you know that the speed going through a certain area is always going to be that speed, that is hopefully what you will do, versus is it 7:55 or is it 5:05 or is it a holiday today, or how does it work? And as Trustee McDonald indicated, our school sites are used far beyond the time that the students are on the school site. And so I think it's one of those things where it makes a lot of sense, and it's the voices are raising on this topic, and I'm hopeful that through some exploration and support from our municipal partners and the Ministry of Transport, that we could start to create some positive change to increase the safety for children and families in our community.
Thank you. Trustee Howe.
Just as a side question around process on how this could work. I know, Tom, you had said that you do have a little or a meeting coming up on the Friday. Was that just around to discuss I guess how you would go about doing that in the process, or was it just to sort of talk about what areas specifically were going to be touched by it? Or was your meeting not about that?
No, the meeting is a combination of our board and the city council of Courtenay. What would occur is we would send a letter. I would send a letter to all our partners indicating a need to request a meeting and entertain a discussion around this motion that, and as was pointed out earlier, because we are in all the municipalities and jurisdictions, we have to all try and get together, all of us, and we would work together, indicating our desire and why it is that we're bringing this request forward. And so Friday would be starting the process by planting the seed with our partners, with the city of Courtenay, and then we would just proceed with the rest of our partners, municipal partners and regional district as well.
Sorry, I think maybe I might have been being a little bit unclear. I meant like more like how do you change it? Like at what level does it get changed, or do we not know that yet?
We have to go through and I do believe, and Director Hasselgrave, I'm looking at you through the screen, but I do believe it's municipalities and Ministry of Transport that set speed limits. Okay. And so that's where we have to go, is to work with them around our request. Director Hasselgrave, is there anything any direction?
That's right. It depends on who owns the road, really. And a great example of that is Highland School has a speed zone in front of it and Isfeld does not. So it really depends on the jurisdiction. Okay. And it will be exactly as Superintendent said. It'll be MOTI for some schools, village for some, city for some, and town for others.
Okay, thanks so much.
So I just wanted to ask then, Director Hasselgrave, does that mean that we could have this approved in some areas to be playground zones and still be a school zone in other areas?
That's correct, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Trustee McDonald.
Yeah, so I'm actually was kind of envisioning that there is a regional active transportation and transportation planning board, mostly where our Director Hasselgrave is involved and works with the staff of the other municipal parties. And I know that they have great communication and work together. And I'm thinking that they will probably, that would be the main place where some of these details are worked out. And yeah, there are speed bylaws that are passed, but and regulations for highways that we do have school zones recognized at our schools. It's a question of expanding that. And I have, spoken about this a little bit with some of our elected officials, colleagues, and they seem to be generally supportive. As Trustee Waite says, this is really rising up in a lot of communities. So Calgary is one of the first. In Vancouver, they've also identified some areas where they're looking at reduced speed limits in residential areas. And we're just seeing in Courtenay that they have a pilot project going in Crown Isle for reduced speeds. The province has said that they won't just reduce residential areas on a blanket basis to 30K, even though there are a lot of people calling for that. But these sorts of initiatives are really coming forward, and this seems like one kind of a contribution that we could make. It ties in with schools that are doing active travel planning, again, where all of the partner groups that are relevant to that school are meeting. And yeah, I was quite interested just looking at the school, the combined zones signage in Calgary. Because I thought that's a really effective sign. Number one topic in the summer is the speed zone at the school on Hornby. That's Hornby's number one. You'd think it's ferries, but it's actually that area. And people just say, well, they didn't know it was a playground. They don't play. It's somebody chasing a ball, and the speed limit is on a separate sign, and people are very confused. The results that impressed me were in Calgary. They did a survey afterwards, and they're asking people, do you know what the speed limit is? And there was an increase of recognition of people actually knowing what the speed limit was with the new rules, rather than before. It's like, well, yeah, I think a school zone's here, but that's a playground, and people were just confused. So just seems like a potentially win-win, and it will certainly take some effort of people working together, but I feel that it could be a very positive thing for our students and our communities. So thank you all.
Thank you, Trustee McDonald. So it was that Trustee McDonald closing us off, and we can take a vote, or did anyone else have anything you wanted to add? Okay, we are going to go to a vote. All those in favor of this motion? Okay, that's carried thank you for all your work on that, Trustee McDonald. Okay, we are at the BCSTA AGM trustee reflection. Trustees who were there at the AGM, did anyone have anything that they would like to say, mention? Trustee Howe.
Yeah, I don't want to go into too much detail, but it was nice to have a meeting that like for the first of its kind in a really long time, for it to have been set up the way that it was and how intimate it was and how just the feeling in the room was. Like, it was really just nice to be back with everybody and you know, to continue on our journey, our learning journey, and be together and have a lot of reflection after together. Like, it was just really great to have, like, senior leadership was with us, and you know, it was a great weekend.
Thank you. Trustee Waite.
Yeah, I think there was so many reasons why it was powerful, and I would say kudos to the, what do they call it, the PLC, the learning committee, the education group that created our pre-conference or pre-convention sessions, and the energy that went into it. And you know, big shout out to the school district in the Cowichan Valley that led a lot of that work, the trustees, and a lot of their senior staff did an incredible service to all of us in what they brought us together to learn. And I agree, is also important to be learning alongside our senior leaders that were there. I know one day Brenda, our secretary treasurer, had a riveting session on elections, everything elections, and so she missed some of the things that we were doing because she was doing that important work. But it was, I think, a tribute to the tenacity and the resilience of our boards of education across British Columbia and the senior teams, and that learning committee that had a dream and created a plan for what we experienced last week.
Absolutely, thank you. Okay, does anyone else, the three members of our senior leadership team, did any of you want to say anything about it?
It was a good learning event, and as Trustee Howe made a comment, it was very emotional, hearing the journey that many of the elders walked, and having them the courage to share that with us and take us along for that journey was truly remarkable. And I thank them for that, for the courage to do so and for including us in that. And I found that a very powerful moment, powerful way to open up, and as Trustee Howe pointed out, a powerful way to bring us all back together. So it was I really enjoyed the sessions.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know if Tom minds me saying anything. He was part of a little piece of the ceremony for Elder Joe, and it was you could feel the support for Joe, and we asked Tom after, and he said it was, sorry, Superintendent DeMayo, and he said it was a really powerful moment. So yeah, standing shoulder to shoulder with Joe. Secretary Treasurer Hooker.
Thank you. I just wanted to echo the sentiments that it was really nice to be able to gather as a sector, superintendents, secretary, treasurers, and trustees for the first time in person. And, you know, it really was powerful. It chose a powerful topic with Indigenous reconciliation. And it was, you know, a lot of learning and a lot of experience that was very well done, and I really appreciated being able to attend. And you know, I regretted the elections work was very important. We also had some information around capital planning, etc., that was shared with the secretary treasurers on the Thursday. But when I was able to join on the Friday and the Saturday sessions, it was fantastic. I also really enjoyed the presentations from the students that of different programs that they were able to participate in as Indigenous students, and some of the really hands-on learning that is happening across the sector in other districts. And I know our district has programs as well. So it was just it was really nice. It felt like things are normalizing again, which was very hopeful. So thank you.
Thank you. Director Manning, or Director, I am so sorry. I demoted you. I will promote you again, Assistant Superintendent Manning.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I thought one of the things that was really powerful for me was, even though it was such a heavy topic and they were sharing a lot of difficult scenarios, I really appreciated their sense of humor and their ability to laugh at things and their ability to be lighthearted about such a serious topic. And I thought that was something that, you know, we could all learn from. And I just was constantly reminded throughout the session when they were joking around how, wow, they're so incredible that way. It's pretty amazing for all they've been through. So I really appreciated that.
I found, because everything is so soft spoken and so, I don't want to say drawn out, but it's very not at the pace that we typically go. And so I almost felt lulled into a calm state, even though everything was heartfelt, and you were just charged because you were hearing these stories. But at the same time, they just kept you so calm. And shout out to the team who was there to support people who may have been feeling anything. They could leave the room, they could talk to a counselor, or they could, the tissues were right there. We were being watched at all times. So if it looked like someone was about to break down, they were right there with the tissues or a glass of water. Everything was about self-awareness and care, and I really appreciated that. So. Any other comments? All right, so we actually, under the agenda, we say that there's no board correspondence, but we actually did receive, sorry, at the last moment, I checked the mailbox today from the Legislative Assembly. We received a card. Dear Tanya, Michelle, Sheila, Christy, Tom, and Brenda, thank you so much for taking the time to meet with me last week, for carefully explaining the issues of growth, catchment areas, and the pressures needed for new spaces. You gave me all the information I need to advocate. Thank you, Josie. So that was the MLA from Port Alberni area. So thank you to her. And public question period. Josh, do we have anyone? There are no questions. Do we give them a few seconds to add something? Trustee Waite.
While we're waiting for that, I just wanted to say how it was a pleasure to meet with MLA Osborne, and that constituency, or constituency because it's provincial, is, I believe it's called Pacific Rim.
Thank you.
And it includes Port Alberni and the West Coast and all the way up through Qualicum, has Cumberland and the islands, and
It's an odd
yeah, it's
configuration.
big, and Port Alberni is the biggest community in it.
She was,
but
I think
yeah.
she was coming to us from Port Alberni, I
She
think.
probably was, and yeah, there's a whole lot of driving to be elected official in that area. And maybe that's given Josh, oh, Jayla had her hand up, but I'm not the chair, so I'm gonna stop talking.
Okay, Trustee McDonald.
Well, I just have a couple of points to add. I was unable to go to the BCSDA, but I was participant in some of the Earth Day things here, and our MLA Josie Osborne was here and attended the rally at Sims Park and the march, and was happy to meet everybody and take in all of those. I was also at the Lake Trail event, the clothing swap with my sewing machine and my sewing some buttons on. So that was quite a lot of fun. It definitely was a good thing. But I'm not sure if people were aware that I also presented at the election. There's always a Electoral Areas Commission, and it was during spring break, and so we didn't have an official position from the school district. I made quite clear that I presented that it was just my own opinion, but there was a presentation and there were many of the other municipal parties. And I did say that for us as a school district, having the split riding and the two different MLAs, and that we don't have a relationship with Port Alberni and the other district, and it is very difficult for the person to represent us and get to know us. And I made very clear that we had no problems with our current MLA, or indeed the one before, but that we recognized how difficult it was, and that we were, well, I'll say but in my experience, there were some real challenges in our representation in the Valley because of that, and that we're hoping to see a new riding on Vancouver Island reflecting the growth, and that they might be able to put part of Cumberland, the Bain Sound area, and Hornby and Denman back with everybody else. So that was the gist of that, and it was sort of like, we wouldn't want to lose our MLA for that area, but we can really see some of the challenges that come to citizens in this area because of that. It's kind of interesting. Anyway, that was another interesting thing, that one of the things that we do.
Thank you so much, Trustee McDonald. Okay, back to you, Josh. Okay, well, we tried. So anyone in the public who has any questions, please feel free to email them to us. We'd be happy to answer them. And with that, I'm looking for someone to move that we adjourn. Thank you, Trustee Howe and Trustee Waite. And we are adjourned.